Well, hello there and welcome to the living room of the dollhouse for another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers for January 31st, the day of Poetic Song. That's right. And here at the top of the page is a visual representational image of the day of Poetic Song. We have us an image of, what could it be here? Boom! It seems to be some kind of a, if it'll focus here, some kind of a lute, I suppose. I don't know, but it's only got 6 strings by going by the neck pegs. And also a deciduous tree there in the background. Seems to be a bit of a theme with the deciduous trees there. Maybe an oak, hickory, maple, who's to say? That having been said, does that strike you as a adequate representation of the day of Poetic Song? Perhaps, I don't know. That having been said, not altogether all too important, the visual representational image. I'd just like folks to see what I have in front of me here on the page. But what is important around these here parts, that's right, it's somebody's birthday. January 31st, individuals. So what's important here, wishing you happy birthday. So I just want to extend you a heartfelt happy birthday. But if this finds you late, I don't know, days, weeks, months, whatever the case may happen to be, well, I hope you had a happy birthday in that case. But you know what? Sometimes we have individuals join us randomly or, to say celebrate the January 31st birthday or just get their daily numbers. Who's to say? But if that's the case, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, like I mentioned, daily numbers, something I like to do around these here parts, and that is roll some dice. This is the DykASSt birthday broadcast, so I prefer to live up to the namesake, but I do so more importantly for synchronicity's sake. And here I rolled a 5 and a 6, 4 and 11. Now, what is synchronicity? Some of you who have been here before are probably wondering. Well, my friends, as I hear tell, the universe is apt to put things in our path to help us realize our goals or manifest our aspirations. But a lot of times we're very narrow, singular, laser of focus, if you like. We often got the blinders on to what's going on around us. Yeah, we may see the things the universe puts in our path, but maybe we don't provide much or give them much concern, if you like. So this is a little bit of a, what you call an exercise to get those blinders off and take note of the things the universe may be putting in our path. With a sign that we can't help but mistake. That's right. We can't help but notice it. Your daily numbers, that's right. Now, you don't have to go with the numbers that I rolled for you. The intention is there, but it's probably advisable you dust off the old Yahtzee set you got in the closet and rate it for a couple of dice if you decide you want to try this exercise out. So you can ascribe directional values to places you're going and time limits with which to go in those directions. That said, if you decide to do this, pick a spot that's maybe near and dear to your heart or one that maybe you haven't explored before. I often like to say head on downtown or into the city square and then set yourself a directional value and a time limit with which to go in that particular direction. Let the universe take the wheel and direct you where to go. That having been said, get those blinders off, all right? You never know, the day might start to take on something of a theme. It might start presenting a lot of different things, or not different things, but specific things into your path as you get along. So you have to be open to those things. It's kind of to show you you're on the right track there. Maybe you just so happen to start seeing people with lutes, all right? That's a very specific thing. I don't think I've ever seen one in my life. So if you started to see multiple lutes, just going by the visual representational image there, I would take note of that, all right? That said, visual representational image aside, it could be just about anything, so you have to be open to as much. So let's say you get off on your first directional value and time limit, you come to the end of it, maybe you haven't seen anything out of the ordinary. You just take a little bit of stock there, open your eyes, look around, don't get disheartened about it, and you might just happen to notice, what's this? That's right, something small. You're on, 11th Avenue or 65th Street, depending upon how big the city is there. Again, I would take that as a sign you're on the right track there. The universe has got a path laid out for you. But it could be just about anything. Maybe you notice up on the old temperature readout on the local store there, 65 degrees. Maybe it's wrong, right? A lot of times those things aren't accurate, right? Hey, again, a sign you're on the right track. So roll yourself another time value, directional value there. Set on out. Maybe you haven't noticed you come to the end of a street and I don't know, this crow sweeps in right across your vantage there, or a hummingbird's kind of flying around, but then it darts off. Hey, you know what? Roll a time value. See how long to follow it for. I know it's a little random, but hey, maybe you're able to track it somehow and see where it's going. A lot of times that's kind of difficult to do with the hummingbirds there darting around. The crows are more apt to kind of, I don't know, perch upon a building there. And if that's the case with the crow, hey, maybe go into that building. Maybe you notice, I don't know. Boom, the address is 56 in it. Could be, or maybe the hummingbird takes you across the park. In the case of the hummingbird, maybe you find somebody in the park playing a little lute action there underneath a deciduous tree. How about that? Or maybe in the case of the crow, you just so happen to notice he's atop a music shop. And what is this? They've got some old ancient instruments in there. Oh, that's right. Your lute's there. That's right. So, case of the park there, maybe go listen to the gentleman for a little bit. Asks if you got any requests, and you say, no, I'm just here on account of synchronicity. Well, what's that you say? He probably asks. Show him your dice, maybe show him this video to explain as much, and he might go crazy. It's my birthday too. And then he might just be apt to pick up his lute and join you on this journey. Same to be said with the individual behind the desk at the lute store there. Hey, see, it might be their birthday too. I don't know. I like to say that because it's just those kind of interesting things that may arise, all right? And you might just happen to make you new friends. They might be apt to close up shop, join you on the journey there. And if that's the case, all the better, because as I've also heard it told, individuals, the more people that there are focused on the same thing, apt to manifest greater or even more results. So I think you get the idea. Get out there, notice the things going on around you, stack up some coincidences, pile up some synchronicities if you like. I think they're pretty interchangeable. But all the less you're going to be out there seeing, tasting, touching, hearing maybe a little bit of the magic. And if you do, I think you'll understand why I brought it up for you here. So that having been said, synchronicity being relayed, let's dive in with why you're here. The birthday read proper. All right. Your month is January. Your day is the 31st. Your sign is 10 to 12 degrees Aquarius of the Aquarius II period specifically. And your quality and element is fixed air. All right, January 31st, the day of Poetic Song. Those born on January 31st are individuals who wish to be heard. They also like to be seen and can become deeply unhappy if kept out of the spotlight for too long. And indeed, being appreciated and understood by even a small, close group of friends is of great importance to their confidence and self-esteem. January 31 people are social and can become depressed if they are forced to hide themselves away. But if they have been emotionally hurt or had their self-image damaged, they can go through very difficult times which demand isolation. Fortunately, they recover fairly quickly to once again share their bubbling personality with the world. Because of the more entertaining aspects of their nature, some January 31 people can find that they are taken less than seriously when they are clearly in earnest. And those born on this day often wish to be valued not only for their sacrifice attributes, but also for the meaning of what they have to say. Many have a secret wish to be considered profound, but nonetheless remain for others a lyric to a song to be dreamed on or a lovely flower that can be openly admired. Some January 31 people may try desperately to change their image, being alternately tough, critical, witty, or philosophical, and yet nothing works. And they may even go so far as to be insulting, yet others will continue to like them, find excuses for their actions, and, yes, fail to see the profound in them. One reason why January 31 people's surface attributes become a focus of attention is that they are in fact so very appealing. Such attention can be flattering at first, but in extreme cases can even become degrading, as some born on this day are treated as appealing objects and nothing more. And for many January 31 people, it is not only their looks, bearing, or sense of style that attracts others, but rather the beauty of their creations. Whether they be children, commercial products, carefully honed talents, or creative works. Still, they often get the idea that they are not really being appreciated for themselves, but for what they value most inside. Or themselves, rather, for what they value most inside. And those January 31 people who do not wholly appreciate such attention will probably find no easy solution to the problem. Perhaps in frustration, they may drop what they are most successful at doing and try something else just to get a more heartfelt response from those around them. But a better solution is to try not to be so dependent on what others think of them and to have the courage to consistently, rather than sporadically, it says in parentheticals, project their deeper thoughts and feelings. And by making a firm decision not to conform to other people's expectations of them in an intelligent and thoughtful fashion, they will command the full respect they desire. All right, a pretty focused birthday breakdown to be sure, and this has been a pretty consistent theme here since the beginning of Capricorn. A lot of the times they'll focus on your family life, what you're like as parents, maybe even your childhood a little bit. But they've kind of been leaning away from that by and large. I don't know how much longer it's going to continue to do as much. But that said, I think they provide a lot of value when they hyper-focus on these things and kind of expand out. So it's kind of interesting that they've shifted this dynamic, to be sure. But that having been said, I often like when they round it out to that much more. But it's just something of note I've been picking up on and kind of like to explain to folks here. But that being said, let's dive into some notes. I also like to provide a little bit of a commentary on what we just read, maybe line it up with days previous, the period in general, etc. So let's get into it, all right? January 31, the day of Poetic Song. You're individuals who wish to be heard as well as seen, and who can become deeply unhappy if you're out of the spotlight for too long. Being appreciated and understood, as the reading said, is integral to the influence and of your confidence there, and also your self-esteem. And to this end, you're said to be social individuals and can get depressed if you're forced to hide yourself away, which you may do, the reading claims, if you go through a damage to your self-image or any emotional turmoil. But on the positive side, as they said, these rather dour realities, you will recover from quickly, and at least from those particular impositions. And you're said to possess a bubbly personality you'll soon be once again sharing once the clouds have ostensibly cleared there. In addition to your bubbly personality, you're also said to be entertaining. And you may, however, find this tends to lend to people not taking you seriously, which I'm sure isn't helpful with that particular aspect of yourself who wants to be heard, right? But hey, I would say it's ultimately their loss, it sounds like, if they're not willing to hear you on that side of yourself. As much as I'm sure that's not especially helpful to hear. We hear that a lot, don't we? You may also desire to be seen as more than what you provide, and this so-called bubbly, entertaining personality. And you may attempt to change that surface level image that many can't seem to see past, which the reading claims you may come to find seldom, if ever, works. You're more seen for the appealing things that you provide the world. I would say just don't get mired in these concerns. I know that's difficult, but that's kind of the reality. Certainly not to the extent that you abandon what actually works for you, because I would say it sounds a little bit like a talent. And I don't know if abandoning your talents is the best course forward, especially since it's an intrinsic strength there. And it's ostensibly you're giving it up for a weakness there, because it's the hard reality is you might not be at all very strong where you wish to be, and that too also is kind of a weakness if you think about it, or at the very least an insecurity. And I would argue that the book claims that in so many words, that you also might be wasting a lot of your energy directing it towards a losing proposition, when you could be directing that energy toward perhaps overcoming that insecurity, it sounds like. So I don't know. Losing prospects aside, there might be a dream of yours that you're trying to go after, and I fully endorse chasing after dreams, but at a certain point, it might be good to cut bait on as much and try to shift back to something that works better for you. I don't know. Sometimes we're very stubborn individuals going after our dreams because that's what we want out of life, and find it admirable. But there's that balance in the works there about, like, do we ditch this or not? Because it doesn't seem to be working. And maybe it's the universe trying to tell us something. I don't know myself. That's the eternal struggle there for a lot of individuals. But I say lean in on you for sure. Don't abandon what works for you. It might just be about finding some kind of synthesis to make the things we desire also commingle and work with the things that we're good at. Not quite sure. But you know what? If that kind of stuff, if people aren't going to cotton to what you're trying to put down for them, and that's important to you, maybe it's important to move on, like they said. What else do I have to say here? I wrote a little bit in the book because I ran out of space on the page. Accepting hard realities makes you stronger and lends actual profound insight. Not two there. Those who want to hear your otherwise profound insight will also probably come in their due time. You might also be open to the idea that you're not actually as profound as you may think you are. It's kind of like comedians who think they're funny, but nobody's laughing, right? I don't know, how long are you going to keep telling the same joke to no laughter, in a manner of speaking there. So perhaps that's the reason it doesn't seem like people are caught into it, because it actually is the reality that it's not as profound as you think it is. So be open to that idea, all right? And then adjust course, I would say. But yeah, I think this is stuff all of us probably go through to some extent. But if it's being mentioned in the book, it might just apply to you that much more if they're making mention of it. That having been said, that's what I had to say about your breakdown there. So let's move on to your numbers and your planets. All right, here we go. Those born on the 31st day of the month are ruled by the number 4, as 3 + 1 = 4, and by the planet Uranus, or Uranus, depending upon your preference to say it there. And since only 7 months have a 31st day, it is a bit of an unusual number for a birthday. And people born on these days are often difficult to figure out. And those ruled by the number 4 tend to be difficult, sometimes argumentative. Governed by the planet Uranus, those ruled by the number 4 can be quick and explosive in their change of mood. And Urian probably qualities are in fact heightened for January 31 people, as Uranus also rules their sun sign, Aquarius. All right. Pretty highly personalized numbers and planets here for you today. They didn't necessarily say a whole lot, but they had to take various elements from other previous days where this kind of popped up and paste them together to make it work. That said, they didn't say a whole lot, surprisingly, but I might be getting ahead of myself. Let's dive back into the notes here. The number 4 in the planet Uranus for a dual Uranus rulership, for quick and explosive changes of mood, they said, and traits of idiosyncrasies, rebellion, and a desire to change the rules, as mentioned elsewhere in the book. And for the added reason of being born on an unusually rare numbered day, they said, apparently. All right. Somewhat difficult to figure that particular aspect out, and you out, apparently. But to that end, perhaps something... you might be somewhat argumentative, they said, which number of the day notwithstanding, I'd be apt to understand, considering your so-called frustrations that they mentioned with trying to get people to recognize what you want them to recognize. So you might start to get argumentative for that reason, and maybe you don't even realize it. It might be baked in there. The added influence of this dual Uranus aspect and its ability to, they say that Uranus electrifies and shakes up the energy of the given planet that might be ruling your day. So like the day previous, it would have been the planet Jupiter there, which imparts a whole different characteristics and traits aside from Uranus. But here you get both Uranus influences, however that works. I'm not an astrologer, so I can't quite tell you. But like I said, Uranus is said to shake up the powers of other planets. So here you must just be getting the eccentricities and the rebellion and the aspects of Uranus to kind of try and change the rules there. And it's just furthermore heightened. You know, as we were getting into this particular Aquarius period, I was getting excited to see how that would be realized, because I don't think a dual Uranus influence has come up before. But I was a little let down that it didn't say more than that. Just it bolsters those particular aspects of Uranus's influence there. I was hoping they would drill down on something else specific that it imparts, but no such luck. They didn't impart much more than that. Did I say anything else here? So a little bit of a letdown for me in that respect, but I don't want to poo-poo that to any extent, because it sounds like there's a lot of seriousness going on ultimately, and it might lend to you a lot of serious issues in your life, especially if there's those frustrations baked into it. Because if you're a little bit of an eclectic individual, that might be lending to why there's a bit of a disconnect with why people won't cotton to what you're trying to put down, I would say. So maybe it's some astrology baked into it. I don't know. That is if you want to lend some credence to any of that. That having been said, that's what I had to say about your numbers and your planets. So let's dive in with your tarot. All right, your tarot. It's one of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies, but hey, it's here in the book. Sometimes we can make further connections with what's been said. Maybe any kind of context to try to figure our lives out is interesting, right? Or potentially noteworthy. So let's dive in, see what it has to say, and then we'll just leave it in a book, right? So let's get into it here. The fourth card of the major arcana is the Emperor, who rules over worldly things through wisdom, the primary source of his power. The Emperor is stable and wise, and the force of his authority cannot be questioned. The positive associations of this card are strong willpower and steadfast energy. Negative indications include stubbornness, tyranny, and even brutality. And for January 31 people, this tyranny may well be interpreted as that which public opinion and expectations exercise over them. Very interesting, very interesting. And I'll get into why I say that. I don't want to burn down the premise here. Here we go. The Emperor for rulership over worldly things through wisdom, as they said, the source of his power. For positives of strong willpower, steadfast energy, but negatives of stubbornness, tyranny, and brutality. Now, I'm not quite sure what to think of the tyranny there. And then they said it was an outside influence, perhaps. And, I really hadn't thought of such things coming from the outside when they bring up negatives and positives. So that kind of turned this whole dynamic on its head. I don't think they ever brought that up before. So the way I would view it is just like those are traits that you exude upon others, not that you necessarily take on from the outside world. So very interesting in that respect. And I probably lost my place here. All right. I really hadn't thought of such things turned on individuals themselves. So there's a huge takeaway there, I would say. And I also didn't pick up on you being tyrannical anyway to that extent, based on the breakdown. I would say stubborn for sure, though, and that you fight tooth and nail for losing propositions. But even on its face, strong willpower and steadfast energy doesn't seem to apply either to some extent, until we look at it in a different perspective, to say you don't have any quit in you, insofar as to the extent you'll actually quit what's good for you because you're driving after that thing you want to be known for. So yeah, you are quitting, but you're doing it so that you can realize that other thing. So you don't have any quit in you in one respect. But I find that very interesting because you're stubborn, you're going after those losing propositions there, and you're willing to dash everything that you have an intrinsic talent for. Very interesting. But I would say once you recognize and change this dynamic, you're bound to find your next evolution. That's right. Or you're willing to synthesize the things to try and find that new thing. It seems like it's a day of perspectives, not just poetic song. You got to look at things from different perspectives to find what will ultimately work for you. Hopefully, right? So in any event, that's been your tarot. Let's move on to some advice. All right, your advice here. Oh, I'm sorry, not advice. Your health. Your health. I got ahead of myself. All right. Those born on January 31 often have troubles in their love lives, which affect both their psychological and physical health. The inevitable consequences are some degree of anxiety and depression. January 31 people must be aware of calling up hurtful treatments, and perhaps due to insecurity, low self esteem, or underlying psychological causes of which they are unaware. Once or often problems with diet arise, which can lead to, in extreme cases here, to a loss of appetite or anorexia, it says, or for others, overeating and a compulsive need for oral gratification. Living in a family situation where diet can be more objectively controlled is important, as well as planning delicious but healthy meals that are limited in quantity. A regular, fairly vigorous exercise pattern, to say aerobics, jogging, and competitive sports, is strongly recommended where no serious health impediments exist. All right. The health here was a very interesting entry. They don't often examine the psychological aspects to that deep or thorough of a degree. And typically when they do express that, they ditch any kind of recommendations for the diet. But they actually included quite a bit there for you, considering as much. So just want to lead into it with that before I dive back into the notes here. So what did I have to say? Trouble in your love life might lead to psychological and physical health problems. I don't think this ever comes up all that often either, if I have come across it. And so you got to mind the anxiety and depression that might arise from that. To this end, it says you may draw up hurtful treatment for others or yourself due to low self-esteem and insecurity. And I would say that's something that one could naturally draw, considering the breakdown and what was said there, because it sounds like a big sticking point there that you're not necessarily understood by others, and so how does that kind of put you in society? And yeah, you can get down on yourself, like what's wrong with me? So definitely understand that to some extent. But issues, it says other psychological issues that maybe you're unaware. Yeah, like we might not know what's going on with us too to some extent. So a huge psychologically implicated day here today. And they haven't necessarily mentioned as much of that before, like I said, or also how that carries over to other things. So maybe take note of that, right? Now, what else I have to say here about your health? I had to write it in the book also. No recommendations for therapy to this end, very surprisingly. Sometimes so much less has been mentioned, and they'll bring up therapy for that kind of thing, or to seek out somebody to talk to. So maybe something to be aware of to that end as well. But delicious, healthy diets and regular, vigorous exercise, ostensibly to maybe get you out of your head, I would say, and put out some energy into the world. Overeating and anorexia, very interesting facet there to tack on to certain things. And it has come up before to some extent. So it's not altogether novel in that respect. It sounds more or less to me kind of like a distraction almost. So I don't know. Maybe take note of as much. But what else did I have to say? The body areas of the Aquarius are the circulatory system and the bones. And they didn't really mention that here. Or not the bones, the lower legs and the ankles. For Capricorn, the body areas were the veins and the skeletal system. And so a lot of times they would bring up that you should eat a heart healthy or a diet that kind of cuts out dairy and animal fats for being mindful of cholesterol. So I wanted to bring that up for you here because there's a very similar through line there between Capricorn and Aquarius. So Aquarius would get the recommendation to cut out red meat, and I think that's just being health conscious for your heart. So I wanted to bring that up for you there to add a little bit more depth to the diet. And what else? They said your ankles is a body area, and your circulatory system. So the chance for stroke and embolism also comes up. And so I've been often liking to recommend getting yourself a pair of compression socks. That's right. Take care of those varicose veins if they start popping up and prevent the strokes there. So that being said, that's been a little bit of extra for your health there. Let's dive in to that advice I mentioned. That's right. I know we've gotten quite a bit of it already. Let's see how much more of it they drill down upon. Your advice. Insist that others treat you as you wish, and let your real self shine through. Cultivate true friendship and rid yourself of all false admirers. And find others with whom you can share real concerns. All right, I like this one here. A lot of valuable advice, I would say. Once again, let's dive back into the book. I couldn't fit any of it on the page here. But bear with me, I had to write it real small to fit everything. So they said, insist others treat you as you wish, all right? I would say within reason, okay? You don't want your insecurity to show through, I would argue. And maybe let people know flatly and that they don't take you seriously there, and that you take issue with that, and then maybe leave it at that. And if they continue to, not give you the respect you deserve, then yeah, cut them out to some extent. What else do we have here? Let the real you shine through, they said. But I would say don't abandon your innate prospects or your talents, the things that you're good at. Just for those idealized wishes that you that are kind of your true dream, I would say, versus versus your a fleeting desire. So yeah, maybe do the analysis there. Is this something I really want, or is this just something that kind of crept up? And if I really leaned into it at the end of the day, and you think it through, like, oh yeah, this isn't something I'm really that interested in. Right now I am, but yeah, a year down the line, if I was doing this for the rest of my life, yeah, maybe that doesn't take the place of what you're intrinsically talented at. What else do they have to say here? I don't know if that's necessarily what they're trying to say, but that's what sparked in my mind about it. So what else? But it dovetails nicely into the next thing they said, cultivating true friendship. Don't let the phonies and the naysayers take control of that important aspect of you. People who ultimately don't necessarily care in the long run. All that you're really doing for them is entertaining them to some extent. So if you're not getting any value out of it, I would strongly consider reassessing that dynamic and relationship. Cultivate true friendship, they said. I already got into that. See, I messed my place again. Finding others that you can share real concerns with. That dovetails nicely also, which to that end is another avenue that you can utilize for that talk therapy there. Sometimes people don't want to see therapists, or they can't afford to do as much. So find somebody that you can talk to over and over again, maybe ad nauseum about the things that are bothering you. Because sometimes we need to be able to say these things and express them and talk them to death, maybe the 37th, 30th time, before we finally caught into what it is that's going to help us get through that. Also, there's maybe that added pressure that's like, I've been saying this to this same individual over and over and over again. Maybe that little bit of pressure, I don't want to lose this friendship over this seeming insecurity of mine. That added pressure is going to get the fire into your feet there to figure out the solution on your own there. Who's to say? It's just something that I kind of figured out. But having that true friendship is perfect. Also, they might let you know that those things you're trying to be profound about, they're not all that profound. Perhaps, all right? Or they're just the individual who sees it for what it is. Profound. That's right. At least between the two of you, or however many friends there are involved in the matter. That having been said, that's your advice. A little disconnected, I know, but my handwriting's so tiny, I missed the lines there. But in any event, that's your advice. So let's dive in to your meditation. That's right. It's your birthday. You get a meditation. Something to reflect upon, if you like. All right. The beauty in a song resides not only in the melody, but in the meaning of the words as well. All right. Pretty deep there. I like it. Once more, the beauty in a song resides not only in the melody, but in the meaning of the words as well. All right. Your birthday, your meditation, I'm not going to throw my spin or interpretation on it. That's just for you. Not that I necessarily have one per se. I don't want to influence it for you, though. So your meditation in the can, as it were. Let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. That's right. Let's hold up the objective mirror, see where we're strong, where we got the girth, and where we're otherwise a little more atrophied, if you do or don't like that. So your strengths, you're attractive, you're admired, you're appreciated. Oh, that's got to be huge for the self-esteem there. You're appreciated. All right. But your weaknesses, oh, here we go. We're doing the real work here. We're flipping that objective mirror to the other side that blows up your face, shows off the things you're otherwise insecure about. That's right. Those pock marks, if you like, that are carried through from when you're picking your chicken pox scabs as a kid. All right. Your weaknesses, you're dependent, misunderstood, and depressive. Okay. Picked up on some of these, didn't we? This isn't news. This isn't news. All right. Dependent, misunderstood, and depressive. All right. Oftentimes I like to say our strengths are going to help us improve upon our weaknesses if we really want to even improve upon them. Because sometimes I like to argue, oftentimes I like to argue, our weaknesses can be strengths as well. It just depends on the situation and the individual. Because at one point in time I saw impulsive come in as a strength, and then the next day it traded into a weakness. And that got me thinking, like, well, shoot, which one is it, right? I think it just depends on the situation, also the individual. Now, I don't know about today if I have a case to be made with these particular strengths and weaknesses, but let's see if I can do it here. Your weakness is dependent, misunderstood, depressive, but you're attractive, admired, and appreciated. Well, I don't know if being attractive is going to help you get over being dependent, misunderstood, or depressive, but admired and appreciated. Hey, what are you admired and appreciated for? Maybe you need to drill down into that bag of tricks and see in that respect there, because I don't know where I'm going here with this one. Appreciated and admired, dependent, misunderstood, depressive. Think. I can't quite savvy how those strengths are going to get you over it. Usually I'm pretty good at this. But the weaknesses, dependent, misunderstood, depressive. How are those strengths? I don't know. One particular instance, I say maybe you're at work, right? And they want to give you this big, heavy project here. We need someone that's going to get it done. Well, hey, maybe you can pull into your bag of tricks this dependent, misunderstood, and depressive and showcase those insecurities. How you're the wrong person for this particular job. There you go. I think that works nicely. They're going to look for someone else they think is a little bit more secure in their position. Now, that's a little bit of a tactic, I would say, because maybe you do have all the security you need to get that job done. But ultimately, hey, you don't want to do that project. So this is an opportunity of you, and you're appreciated, right? So they're not gonna necessarily acknowledge the lie there or the fallacy in which you were doing there. I don't know. I don't really necessarily have a case to be made for my argument with these particular sets of traits there, but I think my argument still stands to some extent. All right, use what you've got as a strength outside of these things to improve upon your weaknesses. That's the argument there. Because I would say anybody comes into this world, they've got that stuff baked in somewhere. And it's not like we only have 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses, right? But that having been said, I also like to say don't abandon your weaknesses altogether because they make us part of who we are, all right? These don't look like the most attractive weaknesses to be sure, but you know what? Just improve upon them how you can. And you know what? Being dependent, misunderstood, and depressive, I would say those are going to help you see life through a certain perspective that gives you that profound insight that you're trying to convey to other individuals. That's a strength right there, recognizing as much, I would say. That's perfect. That's perfect. All right. And you know what? Those other people might not see it for how profound it is because they don't experience life that way. All right. So, but maybe when they do, then they see why it was profound. Hey, didn't so-and-so have that one particular interesting way of, Now that admired aspect comes in like, oh my God, I was so myopic. I didn't see what they was trying to correlate because I just had never been in that position. There we go. I think there's the value in my argument there. So in any event, that's your strengths and weaknesses. So let's move on to those born on this day. And when we get into those born on this day, not only do we get to see who shares your company, something I like to do is examine it from the perspective of chasing after our passions or figuring them out, all right? Because too often in life I get out and meet individuals who, don't necessarily enjoy what they're doing. Because I ask them what they do and if they enjoy it. And even if they say they do, sometimes you can see it on their face. They don't. And I think it's perfectly understandable. Sometimes we get right out of school into a job to make ends meet. There's no time to put in the energy to figure out sometimes even what we like to do, let alone a passion. And then you get into this track where you're just going up the corporate ladder, or maybe getting into jobs you don't like, just to try and fill the coffers, right? And so at the end of the week, end of the day, what are we doing? We're changing the bed sheets, just trying to rally for the next work week. There's no time to put into work to figure out our passions. And so I think this is the perfect opportunity to not only see who shares your company, but what they did to get in the book. And maybe from that, we can start to rekindle the fires, figuring out our passions. If we even had put the wood in the fireplace to do as much, right? Because I think it's important that we're striving after things that we find fulfillment in this life. So it's a noble cause to get after figuring out your passions. So now, that having been said, maybe you already know your passions. Maybe you're making them financially viable. And if that's the case, well, hey, the hat that I'm not wearing is off to you. In this case, let's just see who shares your company. All right, that can be interesting sometimes. So let's get into it here. We start off with Franz Peter Schubert, the Austrian master composer who wrote over 500 songs. Prolific, to be sure, just to that end, but also 9 symphonies, and died at the age of 31. Wow. That's a lot of work to be done and to die at such an early age. All right. We also have Thomas Merton, a poet, a Trappist monk, and is responsible for 7-Story Mountain. We also have Anna Pavlova, a Russian ballet dancer. John Linden, it says Johnny Rotten. I guess that was the stage name there. The singer-songwriter and the punk rock icon of the Sex Pistols and Public Image Ltd. We also have Philip Glass, the minimal music composer, Mario Lanza, a popular opera tenor. We also have Phil Collins, how about that? The singer-songwriter and drummer of Genesis fame and his own single albums there. Also Jackie Robinson, the first African-American Major League Baseball player of the Brooklyn Dodgers and Rookie of the Year and also an MVP. We have Nolan Ryan, the baseball pitcher and an all-time strikeout leader, 7 no-hitters in the last at age 44. We also have Don Hutson, a football and place kicker, 8-time NFL reception leader, and 9-time All-Pro. We also have Norman Mailer, a novelist of The Naked and the Dead, Zane Grey, a Western novelist of Wyoming fame, and the book or the script that they wrote by the name of Wyoming could have been from Wyoming too, but in any event. We also have Carol Channing, a comedian. We also have John O'Hara, who was a novelist of Pal Joey. We also have Tallulah Bankhead, a stage and film actress. And we also have Jersey Joe Walcott, a world heavyweight champion boxer. Eddie Cantor, a vaudeville radio and movie star. Jean Simmons, but Jean Simmons, film actress. Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands. And it also says Alva Myrdal, that must have been her name, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, to take us out from those born on this day. I know it's a big-ass tall order to take inspiration from other folks' accomplishments, but hey, like I said, maybe putting the bug in your ear about as much is going to help you stir up the fires. Or maybe I didn't say that, but that's the intention there. Because if I can wish anything for you on your birthday, it's that you're chasing after a passion, maybe doing backflips out of bed, literal or figurative, to get on with your day and chase after the things that you find fulfillment from. But it takes work sometimes, so hopefully I help stir up the fires to help you get after it. That having been said, that essentially rounds out your birthday reading, except to say your season is winter, your sign once again is Aquarius, of the Aquarius II period specifically. And your quality and elements is fixed air. And this has been January 31st, the day of Poetic Song, from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description if you're interested in picking up a copy and diving in further. Every day of the year in this thing. So you know what? You can break this thing out at parties. It makes a great coffee table book. Help you get the party started for better or for worse, because it's going to break that ice for sure. And that link will help you save the hassle of typing it in a browser there and support the channel in the bargain as well, which I appreciate. But that having been said, book not altogether all too important, not when it's somebody's birthday. That's right. So it's important around here, like I said at the top, wishing you a happy birthday. So happy birthday once again. And for everybody else that joined us randomly or to celebrate, hey, I hope you enjoyed yourselves, and we see you over for your birthday reading. That's right. But lest I forget before I take us out, your daily numbers. Your 5 and your 6 for an 11, all right? Get out there, let the universe show you it's with you on your path. Stack up some coincidences, drum up some synchronicity, see, taste, touch, feel, smell, maybe hear the magic, and you'll understand why I brought it up. So with that having been said, I just want to say thank you for the pleasure of your time. It was a privilege to share your birthday with you. All right. Take care of yourselves. Don't let your insecurities run your life there. Find a way to synthesize, find a balance, moderate the things. And I'd say chase after finding that next evolution. That's right. Finally get into your final form there where you command the respect that you desire, all right? But you're still not sacrificing that which you're talented at. That's right. You're just directing it in a different direction. That's right. So in any event, once again, happy birthday. Take care of yourselves.